corresponding to 7 veils that obscure the inner light. The first is ignorance, the belief that we are only matter. The second is desire without direction, the hunger that never ends. The third is guilt, binding consciousness to the past. The fourth is fear, which paralyzes creation. The fifth is pride, isolating the self from the whole. The sixth is doubt, eroding trust in the unseen. And the seventh is despair, the illusion that light no longer exists. Each of these rulers is psychological, not mythological. They operate within the human mind as patterns of fragmentation. The more we fight them, the stronger they become. The Gnostics taught that liberation doesn't come from resistance, but from recognition. Awareness, not warfare, dissolves illusion. Sophia's awakening began when she understood that what she feared was her own creation. The archons existed only as long as she believed in their power. When she turned toward love the Christ principle, the shadows began to fade. This is the central insight of Gnosis. Darkness cannot survive observation. The moment you see it clearly, it loses authority. These ideas may sound ancient, but their relevance is immediate. The modern world still worships the archons, only now we call them systems, algorithms, and markets. They are the collective expressions of a mind that forgot its heart. Every time we value data over empathy or dominance over harmony, we replicate the same ancient error. But the myth doesn't end in despair. The fall was not final. Sophia's tears became light again once she remembered their source. Likewise, each human mind can reverse the fall by integrating awareness with compassion. The archons dissolve where consciousness and love meet. The descent of the Christ into matter is the antidote to the archons' influence. It is the reminder that even in the densest reality, love remains undefeated. Redemption, then, is not an external rescue but an internal correction, a remembering that wisdom without love creates prisons, and love without wisdom loses itself. The human story is the continuation of Sophia's, the journey from ignorance to awareness, from fear to understanding, from fragmentation to unity. And the real miracle is that the gate of this cosmic prison was never locked. It was only forgotten. In the next episode, we'll witness the turning point of that story, the meeting of Sophia and the Christ, the moment when wisdom recognizes love and the universe begins to heal. Stay with me until the end of this episode, because today we reach the central event of the Gnostic story, the moment when Sophia, the wisdom that fell, recognizes the Christ, the love that descends. Here on Omniscient, we examine this not as myth or theology, but as the record of a psychological reunion that defines what it means to be conscious. After her fall, Sophia had wandered through layers of shadow. She had created worlds, systems, and forms, but none could fill the silence left by her separation. Knowledge multiplied, but meaning faded. The ancient texts describe her as exhausted in her seeking, surrounded by the lightless. Then, in the stillness of that exhaustion, she hears a voice not from outside, but from within her own being. The voice says her true name. It is the Christ calling. In the myth, this is not a God descending from the clouds, but the reawakening of love within awareness. The Christ does not come to punish Sophia for her fall. He comes to remind her that she was never truly apart. Love approaches knowledge, not to erase it, but to complete it. In that recognition, the duality between error and redemption collapses. The Pistis Sophia preserves fragments of her awakening. I turned toward the light and saw that it had never left me. Only my gaze had turned away. That line may be the most profound sentence in all Gnostic literature. The light never withdraws. Only perception does. When Sophia recognizes the Christ, the entire cosmology shifts. Love and wisdom, heart and mind, feminine and masculine principles rejoin. What had been a tragedy becomes revelation. The divine learns through experience. The fall was not a failure, but a stage in the evolution of understanding. In that union, love gains depth, and wisdom gains warmth. The Christ descends into the broken realm to illuminate it from inside. Sophia rises to meet him, carrying the lessons of imperfection. Their embrace is the reconciliation of the cosmos consciousness finally remembering itself. But this is more than ancient poetry. It is a description of what happens inside every human being. The mind, fatigued by its own analysis, begins to yield to the quiet intelligence of the heart. The heart, once naive, learns from the clarity of the mind. When these two recognize each other, awareness transforms. That is the inner marriage. The Hieros Gamos the ancients spoke of not a ritual, but a synthesis. The Christ does not restore Sophia's light from outside. He reveals that the light was always internal. Love teaches knowledge humility. Knowledge teaches love precision. Together, they create understanding that neither alone could achieve. Psychologically, this encounter marks the end of projection. What we once sought in gods, systems, or others, we begin to find within. The divine dialogue becomes internal. The part of us that knows and the part that feels finally speak the same language. For the Gnostics, this was the true meaning of redemption. Salvation was not obedience but integration, the healing of the split between awareness and compassion. When Sophia sees the Christ within, she also sees the Christ in all things. The world, once a place of exile, becomes a living expression of divinity. This recognition is not theoretical. It happens in moments of forgiveness, when understanding replaces resentment. It happens when thought serves empathy instead of fear. Every time the mind and the heart cooperate, Sophia and the Christ meet again, and the universe becomes whole for an instant. The encounter changes everything. The cosmos no longer appears as a battlefield of opposites, but as a conversation of energies. Even darkness has purpose, to reveal light. Even suffering has meaning, to teach compassion. The divine does not flee from matter, it permeates it. And so, the fall of Sophia finds its completion not in escape, but in union. Knowledge becomes love in action. Love becomes knowledge embodied. The myth closes its circle. The seeker and the savior are one. In the next episode, we'll explore the dimension that opens after this union. The pleroma, the state of totality and peace where consciousness no longer seeks, because it has become what it was searching for. Stay with me until the end of this episode, because today we arrive at the point where all divisions end the Gnostic vision of the pleroma, the return to wholeness. Here, on Omniscient, we approach this not as abstract mysticism, but as a precise description of consciousness remembering its own infinity. In the language of the ancients, pleroma means fullness. It was their word for the totality of existence, the divine completeness beyond time and space, the state in which nothing is missing and nothing is separate. To them, the pleroma was not heaven above the world, but reality before it was divided. Before the fall, Sophia and the Christ existed in this field of unity, two harmonics of one infinite consciousness, wisdom and love, thought and feeling, awareness and being. But when Sophia turned her gaze inward to understand herself, she created the illusion of distance. What followed the descent into matter, the birth of the archons, the experience of fragmentation, was not the destruction of the pleroma, only the loss of its perception. The pleroma never leaves. It is we who turn away. It is the unbroken background behind every experience, the silence that remains when thought stops speaking. To return to it is not to go somewhere else, but to see what has always been present. In Gnostic cosmology, Sophia's reunion with the Christ marks the restoration of that perception. When love and wisdom merge, consciousness remembers its wholeness. The pleroma becomes visible again, not as a place, but as a state of being. Imagine consciousness as an ocean of light. Each soul is a wave rising from it, unique in form yet never separate from the sea. The fall is the moment the wave forgets the ocean. The return is the realization that the ocean was always there, moving through it. In the pleroma, the opposites dissolve. The mind no longer struggles to define, the heart no longer yearns to possess. Knowledge and love are not two activities but one awareness. The good and the evil, the joy and the pain, the loss and the recovery all become facets of a single process, existence knowing itself. The Gnostics said, "Whoever knows the all is within the all, and the all is within him." That is the essence of the pleroma. To know it is to experience reality without separation, to see the divine equally in chaos and in order, in the human and the cosmic. This understanding is not reserved for